Genau. Second. All right, well, we're holding by Pirke Avos, ethics of our fathers, as is known. Again, we're not holding by Pirke Avos, ethics of our fathers. We're holding by Pirke Beis, second chapter, mishna Tezayin, 16th, 16th Mishnah, and there we've been speaking about an evil eye, right? Rabbi Shua says an evil eye, the evil inclination, hatred of other people, remove a person, remove a person uh, in the name in the name of Rabbeinu Yonah. And Rabbeinu Yonah said that what does it mean? What does it mean over here? Have an evil eye, it's about being jealous, right? Being jealous of others, and not being happy with what you have, right? In other words, someone has wealth, someone has great kids, someone has, I don't know, great spouse, whatever it is that someone is jealous of. They make the other person feel bad. They can open up their file, right? As we've spoken. So we've spoken the last number of weeks, different ways, that a person in this case would have a lack of emunah, right? Seemingly a lack of emunah. The fact that God gives everyone, what they need, even according to what God thinks we need, whether we think we need it or not, different, different issue. So God's not going to give you something that may be bad for you. I mean, it'll be a test. It could be God could do that. All right, no question. But since we just went through the holiday of Purim, still, so I'm going through it in Jerusalem tomorrow, which is going to be for. I can't read the Megillah tomorrow because it's already too late, and there is an idea to give shachmanos, right? To give food gifts and matanos levyonim, right? To give charity, and the reason. Right. The reason it is still considered continuation of Purim, but the only thing is you can't read the Megillah. Why can't you read the Megillah? Because really they were supposed to read the Megillah today, right? And today was Shabbos, and you don't read the Megillah on Shabbos because rabbis worried someone would bring the Megillah in public, carry in public, and that could lead to a problem with if you don't have an eruv and all that. In any case, why don't they read the Megillah tomorrow? Because the Gemara says you can only read it starting from Yud Aleph, right? Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, you can read it. Yud Gimel, right? Yud Dalet, really, if everyone outside of Israel is going to read on Yud Dalet, right? And Tes Vav, if you were in a walled city at the time of Yeshua ben Nun, right? So that's it. So there, the Gemara answers and says it's going to be read. It can be read on any of these days, but it cannot be read later. In other words, you could technically read it early, but you're not allowed to read it later. So later than Tesva, right? Which was today, which is now tonight is Tezayin, right? But today was Tezvav. So if today was Tezvav, even people in Jerusalem cannot read the book of Esther, as we mentioned. And the reason is because you're not allowed to carry it, right? You won't be allowed to carry it because someone may want to learn how to read from it or whatever. So you can't carry it or whatever. So therefore you can't read it on Shabbos. Very good. So read it the next day, but you can't read it the next day. It's too late. So when did everyone in Jerusalem read the Megillah? When everyone else did, right? On your Dalit, which was Friday, right? Thursday night. Read it Thursday night, read it Friday as well. So tomorrow, the only thing that's going to be going on in Jerusalem, I mean, some people may give the mitzvah of the day on Friday was to give food gifts to friends, i.e., shachmanos and matanos avyonim, and money to the poor, right, to poor people. And there is, so when did everyone in Jerusalem or any walled city, when did they do that? So they also did it, right? They also did it on Friday. There is an idea, right, to give some food gifts and money to charity for people, let's say, in Jerusalem on Sunday. But the main mitzvah was on, for everybody, which is on Friday, which is kind of interesting because usually most people in the world are going to celebrate it, one day. And then for those people, again, live in Jerusalem or other walled cities, the time of Joshua would do it, the next day. So that's why we call it Purim Mishulish. It's like 3-day. Mishulish means 3, right? So it comes from the word shalosh, which means 3. So you got 3 days. You got a 3-day Purim. So everyone does everything on Friday, right? Thursday night and Friday. And then you have Shabbos, and then everyone in Jerusalem, celebrates with a festive meal on tomorrow. So anyone that's ever been in Jerusalem on, Purim knows like the whole city's just like underwater. It's, it's every community is just packed, right? It's like a parking lot, can't get in, can't get out, right? It's kind of a crazy day, also, but if you're not celebrating, really, you don't have to hear the Megillah or do the other mitzvahs. It's good, it's still good to go. See what other people are doing. In any case, what's that connection to Purim, right? What is this connection? What did Rabbeinu Yonah say? Rabbeinu Yonah said that a person's not happy with what they have, right? They're jealous. They have more money. They have fame. They have other things, better kids, better spouse, who knows what. And what it does is, as we've said before, contaminates person's thoughts, right? Makes them constantly think what they don't have, right? What they're missing, right? So to speak, cause the person to be depressed, among other things. They won't be able to function. It bothers them, right? It totally bothers them, right? And also, they're looking into the bad. They're not looking into the good, what the other person has. We've spoken about that also. But I want to make one point here, right? Probably one long point here. And that is, okay, so we're in Purim now, or Purim's just about over, right? But still got one more day. What's the connection to Purim, right? What is the connection to Purim? So Purim, it is brought down that one of the last holidays that all the holidays going to be batel, going to be nullified, except, in the future, when the Messiah comes, except for Purim, right? Except on, wait 1 second. Someone said, Purim, what if you listen to Megillah on Thursday night? You have an obligation. Everybody this year, right? Every Jew this year had an obligation to hear it Thursday night and Friday. Got to hear it twice. Got to hear it at night. Got to hear it during the day, right? Now, people in Jerusalem have the obligation also to hear it the same day as everybody else, i.e. Yudal, because they can't read it on Shabbos. So even if a person lived in Jerusalem, you have to hear it Thursday night. You have to hear it after the fast. You have to hear it Friday morning, right? It's kind of funny for people in Jerusalem that after the fast, now they have to hear them. You have to hear the Megillah. I'm not talking about some communities in Jerusalem itself that also hold Yudalad. I'm not going to go into the halachic ramifications of that. There are some that do it stringently, even though the main day is really Tesvav. It's really the day after. But the point is that they can't read on Shabbos. So everybody this year was going to read it Thursday night. So there's no question here. You say, what if you listen to it Thursday night? What do you mean? You had an obligation. Not a question, what if? You had an obligation. If you're a Jew, you had no obligation to hear it Thursday night and Friday morning. Right? This year, everyone's going to hear it at the same time. Right? Everyone's going to hear it at the same time, Thursday night and Friday morning. Simple reason is because if you live in Jerusalem, you can't read it on Shabbos, so therefore everyone's going to read the same night. So that's the answer to that. So Purim, yeah, I do want to bring up something here that, what do you call it? That's, let's see if I find it here. That my Rebbe brought down here, right? And that is, why in general the Medrash says in Mishle, Medrash in Proverbs, Parsha Tess, anyone wants to look it up, it's the ninth chapter. I think it's been translated, but it doesn't matter. The Medrash says, Kol Moedim, all the festivals, Asidim Lios B'Telim. They're all going to be bottom. They're all going to be nullified in the time of when the Mashiach is here. Right? V'mei Purim ain't B'Telim Lo Olam. Right? The days of Purim will never be nullified. Right? Shenemar, how do I know? How do I know? Says the Medrash. I got a pasuk, I got a verse. In the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 28, it says, V'yimei Purim ha'eleh, lo ya'avru, toch hayudim, v'zichram lo yosif mizara. Translation, the days of Purim. These days of Purim will never cease amongst the Jewish people, and they'll always be remembered. Right? And they won't stop from their project, from their offspring. Meaning, it's going to go on forever. Right? But the Medrash says, but what about all the other festivals? All the other festivals seemingly ain't going to be nullified. Right? So you have to understand what's going on here. We'll get to our broader point in a second. Right? But why Purim? Why in the world should Purim still be around? Right? In the future of the Messiah. So Rabbi asks, according to that, what's the difference with Purim and any other festival? Right? That's the question. Now, how can it be that Purim is not even, a Torah obligation? I mean, it comes from Divrei Kabbalah, passed down generation to generation, very good, right? But all the other festivals, Sukkot, Passover, right? Got a month of Passover now. Start getting nervous, right? You got Passover, you got Rosh Hashanah, you got Yom Kippur, right? So you got all these festivals that are Torah obligations, right? All the Karaites to be happy, right? No rabbinic nothing over here, right? It's all according to the Torah. It's all brought down. The 7th month and the 8th month and the 3rd month and all this. Keep this holiday, keep that holiday. Doesn't tell us how to keep it. Doesn't matter, right? Torah obligations. Torah obligation. Now this comes to Divrei Kabbalah. Now some say it's even stronger than Torah obligation. But even without going according to that. So he says my Rebbe, should be well. And he said, what's the fundamental principle here? What do the rabbis want from us? That the mahus, the whole essence of Purim, is different from any other holiday, right? Because every other holiday, what do we commemorate? Zecher Nisim, right? A remembrance to miracles, right? That happened, right? Nisim Gluyim, revealed miracles, very clear miracles happened in Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? Coming out of Egypt. That Jewish people came out, Lamal Min HaTeva, right? Above nature, never should have happened, right? Because Moses doesn't want to try and take the Jewish people out, right? Why not? To see God gives him a direct command. Why is he going to, say, come on, I don't speak well. They're never going to listen to me. And God, will I chastise them? What's he arguing about? God gave him a direct command. What's he arguing about? Right? So it's brought down that Moses looked up to heaven. He saw an angel of God and an angel of Egypt. Each nation has their guardian angel, right? In order to plead for whatever that country needs. And he saw an angel of God, i.e. the Jewish people, and an angel of Egypt intertwined like this, like a double helix, right? Like a DNA molecule. So what did Moses understand? The Moshe Rabbeinu understood It's absolutely impossible for the Jewish people to get out. Never happened. It's not about people say, oh, you root for the underdog, right? Getting closer, to March Madness, college basketball and all that. You can see sometimes the underdog will win, right? There are always upsets, right? Usually you have, let's say 64 teams. Usually have 16 seed against the number one seed. Usually that number one seed should take care of business and, demolish them, right? Which normally happens. Sometimes number one seed get knocked off, can happen, right? So you tell me, okay, sometimes it happens. Very good. In this case, forget about, astrology, when they could really read the stars. Moshe Rabbeinu says, God, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? If I go, right? If I go, it's not going to help. Jewish people are never going to get out. God says, says, don't worry. Says, I can take the Jewish people out against nature. I can make miracles. And he says, I'll take the Jewish people out through miracles. So it's not about, first of all, Egypt was the world power at that time. No one that they enslaved ever escaped, except what? Except the Jewish people. Now, if you put this in the supercomputer, many supercomputers, you put in the odds, right? Egypt against Jewish people, 100 times out of 100, Jews never escape. Never happen, right? So according to nature, will never happen, right? So first of all, he says, all the other festivals are remembrances of miracles, open miracles. Yeah? And he gives one example. He says, coming out of Egypt, open miracle. But Purim, what happened on Purim? There was no nace. There's no miracle that was above nature, right? Everything that happened in the book of Esther, the whole story, even though the events, each event doesn't look significant until you put the whole story together, right? Nonetheless, he says, if you see the story, how it unfolds, what do we see? Teva. We see nature. And how long did the story of Purim take on? 9 years. There's a whole 9-year odyssey, right? That went on. And it wasn't recognized, certainly at the beginning, that that God's greatness, God's interference in history, going to take care of business, right? Because everything looks according to nature. As my Rebbe says, who came to be king, right? Achashverosh. Achashverosh makes a great party, right? All his servants are there, right? All the people that, all his ministers, right? All his ministers are there. And he commands his wife, Vashti, to come. What happened? She doesn't come, right? For different reasons. And he got very angry, extremely angry. What does he do? Takes counsel with his ministers, kills her. Right? Now, that looks according to nature. Right? If you're going to ask, okay, queen does something against the king, he could kill her. Right? Right? So that looks according to nature. Very good. Same thing, the whole thing with Bigsan and Seresh, right? They plot against the king, right? And Mordechai comes, right? Mordechai comes and squeals on them, and they get killed. That was corroborated. They got killed. And then the king can't, the king can't sleep, so they bring in the most boring book in the history of man, right? Chronicles of the king, meaning. Today the king woke up, 10 o'clock. Then at 10:15, he brushed his teeth. Then at 10:30, put him back to sleep. But what happened? They ended up reading the story. What happened to Mordechai, right? The king's like, anyone, ever give him any reward? And then Haman came in. That was beginning the downfall of Haman, right? Nonetheless, all these things, what does it look like? Teva, right? Absolutely looks like nature, right? And then the fact that who came from nowhere to become trusted advisor of Achashverosh? Haman, right? Mr. Haman himself. And Mordechai got him angry. Why did he get him angry? Because he refused to bow. He certainly refused to bow. And Haman, with all his power, he had a tremendous amount of power and wealth. Nonetheless, with all his power and wealth, he's angry, he's rip-roaring mad. So he decides he's not only going to kill Mordechai, he's going to kill everybody. Going to kill the entire Jewish nation, right? Now, if you look at it at face value, my Rebbe here says, as you look at it, what does it seem like? Nature. right? There's nothing more than nature. But then we see all the things that happen, all the stories, right? All the stories that happen within, right? Now you see they add up to something, right? The stories, the things that happen, you'll see, well, there's no real order over here, right? And nothing special what's going on. In other words, if we follow the plot as it goes, what do I see? Nature. I see nature written all over. But you see, right? See, my Rebbe here says they're all part of Shluchei HaBoirei Yisbarach, the messengers. God plays with them, right? And puts the story together the way he wants it to, right? So here you see, there's no Teva or Mikra. There's no such thing. That's what Amalek brought to the world, right? The numerical value, and all you Gematria fans out there, right? Every letter has a numerical value. Aleph is 1, Beis is 2, right? Gimel is 3. So the numerical value of Amalek is suffix, is doubt. They brought atheism to the world. Don't worry. Yesterday I would never have been able to do it, right? I didn't even bother and try, right? To figure out what the numerical values were to equal them up. That wasn't really an option, right? So my Rebbe here says that there's no Tevo Mikra, right? Nothing happens for no reason, right? Rak, he says, everything is under the hands of God, right? And what he wants, right? And how he wants to guard his people, etc. So what does God do? He orchestrates the whole thing with all these things that look according to nature, because again, God's ways are hiddenness within hiddenness. The last open miracle was Hanukkah, very good. This is all according to nature. This is all according to nature, right? So you see that the whole thing over here, right, goes according to nature. And this has been what the Jewish people have gone through throughout the exile, throughout the Hester Panim, the hiddenness within hiddenness over here. And therefore, Mordechai and Esther fixed that the days of Purim will be L'doros, will be for all generations. Never going to change. No matter what happens, Purim's going to be for all generations. In order that all generations are going to see divine providence. They're going to see how God runs the world. And even when he saves us, he does it in a hidden way, right? According to nature. In order to show what? Ein teva ba'olam. There's no such thing as nature, right? Really, everything is a command from above, right? It's a gezerah, a decree from above, which leads us to divine providence. So therefore, there's a special simcha, special enjoyment, enjoyment on Purim that shows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God himself, does not leave the Jewish people, right? And his love is fixed in us forever. And even if God does not deal with us in a way that we see God himself revealed, so to speak, like it was in the first temple, right? Let's say, and with open miracles, doesn't matter. He's still in charge, right? He's still showing that he's in charge. So also, he says that the reason Purim will never be bottled, that will never be nullified in the future, because he said what's the reason all the other holidays will be bottled? That'll be nullified because all the holidays themselves, what's their fundamental foundation, right? What's their foundation? The foundation in all the holidays is Zeicher L'Tzias Mitzrayim, right? Is for the fact of remembering coming out of Egypt. And in the future, we're going to merit to see unbelievable miracles when the Messiah comes. It's going to look like it's according to nature until there's no question. Till there's absolutely no question, these are open miracles, right? The miracles that happen in Egypt will be pale in comparison to the miracles that are going to happen when the Messiah comes. That's why he brings down from Prophet Jeremiah, chapter 16, verses 14 to 15, he says, behold, their days are going to come, right? And the person's not going to be able to, no one's going to say, the living gods, he took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Why? Because he says, I live now, and I'm going to bring the Jewish people out from the north, right? I'm going to save them from the north and from all the lands, on the lands that they're placed in. In other words, not just about coming out of Egypt here, right? Says the prophet Jeremiah, God is going to make clear to the world, all the Jews from all over, right? He's going to say. So the Gemara says, so for all future generations, what does it show? There is no nature. God is nature. God takes care of everything. So the essence of the decree, right, of the miracle of Purim is not just on the miracle itself, but to remember that the miracle comes from what? From prayer, from fasting. Not according to nature in general. It's not about arms, not about an army and all that. It's only through prayer. So what's the biggest weapon the Jews have in exile? What's the biggest weapon? It's prayer, right? Fasting, it's prayer, right? In general, and that's be pure prayer over here. Not about who's president, who's not president, who's going to do this, not going to do that. This one's going to save us, that one's going to save us. No, it's good to have friends in high places, but that's not the Savior. The Savior himself is God himself, right? So the fact that they prayed day in and day out, that's what saved them. So he says, we understand on these days that the essence of service to God on Purim is to recognize the power of prayer and to remember the nace. Remember, the miracle is not just the great joy that we have, but the fact that what started before, right, the day before or weeks before, right, in this case, was in prayer, right, it was Tinus Esther, right, everybody prayed, everybody fasted, right, and what did they do? They screamed out to God, save them, and that's why that's fixed for all generations. Yeah, and the fundamental principles, the Gemara in Tinus says on 7a, says that the Ravid usually disagrees a number of times on the Rambam, that they bring in the name of the Ravid that Tinus Esther, that the fast of Esther is different from all other fasts, right? Not only is it just a day of fasting, but he calls it, says the Ravid, he calls it a Yom Za'aka. What does a Yom Za'aka? It means to scream out, means to cry out. And that's what it means. That's what the verse means. It's Divrei Atzoimois V'Za'akasa. Days of fasting and days of calling out, crying out. Right? So they made this festival on Purim, for all generations, and we accept it upon us in all generations. And that day before would be this Yom Za'aka, i.e. on the 13th of Adar, which is going to be the fast of Esther. In any case, whatever, he goes further on this, but that's really the main point. So in essence, what are we talking about? In essence, we're saying that God's the one in charge, right? At all times. Even if according to nature, we don't see open miracles, right? As we said before. So since we don't see open miracles, what do I have? You have things clouded in hidden according to nature. So what does Purim show beyond the shadow of a doubt? That God's in charge, that God intervenes in history, and we see that prayer is a huge thing. Okay, so very good. Now, that was just by way of introduction. Comes along Rabbeinu Yonah, and he says, what does it mean? The person has an evil eye. They're not satisfied with what they have. They're jealous what their friends have, and it makes them depressed, and they can't function, and it bothers them, and it put a bad eye in somebody and all that. Very good. So he says, or I would say, well, that's, what's the lesson of Purim here? The lesson of Purim is God's the one in charge. The God is beyond nature. So what we see, we certainly don't understand. But even so, if God's the one in charge, let's assume we're not going to be Amalekites here, right? We do believe God is in charge. We don't believe things happen by chance. If we don't believe things happen by chance, and that God is running the show, and God is pulling the strings, very good, so what's the problem? Then why is somebody going to have an evil eye? Why are they going to be jealous of other people? Why are they going to be jealous of what they have and what you don't have? If God is above nature and God is in charge and he gives us what we need, yeah, according to him, not necessarily according to us. We think we need more and we want more. We always want more and all that. Very good. But if he's the one in charge and we acknowledge that he's in charge, then what are we missing? So the lesson of Purim, is the fact that we have to see God as being in charge at all times, and that God is nature, and that God can change nature if he wants, right? He can certainly do that. So if God does that, what am I lacking? Why do I feel, not me, why does somebody feel that they deserve this or deserve that? Yeah, I hear this all the time. People say, this is unfair, that's not unfair. We've spoken about this, right? It's not a question of what's fair or what's not fair. There's measure for measure. We don't always understand the measure for measure. Okay, we're not in a position to. Last week's Torah portion, Parshas Tetzaveh, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want to see you face to face. God says, no one can see my face and live. God says, I'll show you from the back. I'll give you my glory from the back. Very good. That means you can't understand what you're going through now. You're never going to understand it. Not going to happen. So you can say, well, why ask? You can ask. God can say yes or no. Okay. But he has the ability to ask. Very good. Yeah, but no one's going to understand what God's doing and how he's doing things and how he's orchestrating things, unless you see it in hindsight. And even in hindsight, we don't always understand. Right? Yeah, I'll give one example, right? Without getting into politics, I'll give one example. You take what's going on between, Russia and Ukraine. Why all of a sudden now? Why all of a sudden Putin gets his bug in his head and he says, I want to take over this land, right? I want to make Russia stronger, make them look better, this, that. I've had a hard time over the years, and everybody and their mother were saying he's going to do that. It's going to lead to World War III. Well, he doesn't want World War III. They're not interested. He's got a big ego. That's true. But he doesn't want World War III. That's not what he wants. He wants more places that he believes belongs to the greater Russia. Okay. So he thinks he's got a right to do it. But why all of a sudden now? Out of all times. Why now? What got on his head now? So we say that Lev Malachim B'Yad Hashem. The hearts of kings are in the hands of God. So God's just orchestrating, using them as puppets. Right? So, a lot of people, jump the gun. But one of the things, my Rebbe mentions further, is that when something happens, doesn't matter what it is, what do people do? They go to the news. They want to see, like what's going on. What is the news report? Right? So we know history, because I studied it, we know history is his story. How someone is going to present information. You hear in news reports, by let's say the leftist media. Then you hear it from someone who's more grounded, I would say. Two different reports. Two totally different reports. That's the way it looks. Because they have their biases, right? There are biases. Okay. So Rebbe would say, if everything is nature, God is nature, and God is running the show, why in the world am I listening to these pundits for? They have no clue. They can think and say, well, I think it's like this, and I think Putin's doing it because of this, and Zelensky, is whatever. It's like You got people that, they'll say they're world experts, right? They're world experts in whatever field. So they have the right to talk, and we should listen. But what do they know? Right? The reality is, take all the newspapers, take all social media, people putting stuff up and chuck it. Right? That's what my Rebbe says. You're right. Why? Because we just said God's in charge. So if God's in charge and they're making mincemeat out of what they think is going on, who are they? Are they prophets? No prophets today. Right? Who are the only prophets today? Either imbeciles, right? Imbeciles or little children. Right? Someone who's mentally challenged, right? Or little children. There is no prophecy. So there are great rabbis that have a very low form of prophecy, what we'd call Ruach Kodesh, divine inspiration. Okay, yeah. But he says, what do I care what this person says? So what are they claim to be an expert. Who's the biggest expert? I'll tell you in 3 letters, God. God's the biggest expert. He's the one pulling the strings. We don't know why. Nobody knows why. Why it's happened now, why the Holocaust happened 80 years ago, 70 years ago. Nobody knows why. Happened just then. What ticked off God and let it happen for so long or whatever. At that point, nobody knows. But, we can say, well, it's because of this, or it's because of that, it's because of something else. Okay. But at the end of the day, my Rebbe said, what is it? It's a divine decree. That's it. Not, oh, but I want to figure out this. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. At the end of days, favorite topic for any form of Christian. Yeah. How the end of the day is going to look. How the end of the day is going to look. Well, isn't that a major contradiction? Right? Isn't it a major contradiction between the commentaries, what it's going to look like, contradictory verses? Sure. You get contradictory verses all over Tanakh. No one's going to figure it out. And the Rambam says that if you figure it out, let's say you try and figure it out, you say, so according to my calculation, Mashiach should be here, 2 years, 5 years, should happen 10 years ago. What's going to happen? You're going to make a wrong calculation. Mashiach didn't come, and you're going to become a heretic. So, it must not be true. The whole Torah must not be true. So the Rambam says, forget about figuring it out. It's an interesting thing, but we're never going to figure it out. Bottom line. No one's ever going to figure it out. Right? So based on that, why should we waste any time? When I mean any time, I mean any time. Why in the world should I waste any time whatsoever listen to someone that doesn't know God or nothing, right? And is going to tell me what he thinks world events are happening and why. That's like saying, I understand God, I understand how he runs the world. I remember a number of years ago, the number of bus bombings here, Lo Aleinu, that shouldn't happen, right? And, one after another. So, I was big into politics back then. And so I asked my Rebbe this question, well, what about this? And if they're in power, and this happens, and that happens, he's like, what do you care? He's like, what are you playing God over here? Like, you think these political parties, do anything? God's the one in charge. So he asked me, he says, listen, are you happy 95% of, 95% the way God runs the world in general? I was like, yeah, probably. He said, the other 5% you'll never understand in 10 lifetimes. You'll never understand. He's like, don't waste your time. Do not waste your time. He says, looking at these things and you hear these political pundits and this and that, give their dime store sermon about what they think it is or whatever. What do they know? If you tell me, listen, they're big rabbis, they're God-fearing, they're this, they're that, they're not God. Bottom line, they can predict, they can make predictions, could be totally wrong. Could be totally wrong. What could happen during World War II? Many rabbis did not tell people to leave. They didn't tell people to leave. Why not? Because God didn't want to give them the information what was happening. So therefore, once they finally figured it out at some point, it's too late. Now, some told people to leave. Okay. The vast majority didn't. So you're going to say, well, rabbis are fallible. They're human. But if you're not giving it, if you don't have like insider information, you're not going to know. Right? The story by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai by the destruction of the temple. Yeah. What did he ask for? He had an opportunity, went in front of the king, right? He had an opportunity to ask for a lot. He asked for three things. One is to save Rabbi Tzadok. Rabbi Tzadok had been fasting because of the upcoming destruction of the temple. He's fasting for 40 years, right? He wanted the family of the Nasi, of the exarch, to be saved, right? To save the wise ones of Yahweh. Now, commentaries ask the question, okay, yeah, he was granted, these are the three things he asked for. What is the obvious thing? What is the obvious thing that he didn't ask? He didn't ask to save the Jewish people. Why didn't he ask to stop the destruction? He could have asked for that. Now, it doesn't mean he would have got the answer he wanted. But why didn't he ask for it? Now, a simple explanation you could tell me they were going to destroy it anyway. And he felt that they weren't going to give him that. He felt there's no possible way. There's absolutely no possible way that the Jewish people are going to be saved. So therefore, why bother? I'll ask for other things. It's like, going into a negotiation with somebody, right? For whatever project, right? And you ask something that the other side will never give you. So you can say you can ask for anything. Okay. Doesn't mean you'll get it, right? You can shoot for the moon. You might not end up on the moon, but you end up somewhere. So why not ask for the, it's like asking for something outrageous. Nobody's going to do that. So he was the leader of the Jewish people for 40 years, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, right? So you can say, what happened? Why didn't you just say, save the Jewish people? Forget all the other things. Save the Jewish nation from being destroyed. Now, what if you would have asked Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, you would have asked him this question. Why didn't you ask for that? What would he have said? What do you think, I'm stupid? They're never going to give me that. Not even close. So I'll ask these other things that are important. Okay, right? Legitimate excuse, right? Sounds like a legitimate excuse. What does the Gemara say? It brings a verse in Tehillim, right? It brings a verse from Psalms that says that sometimes the eyes of the righteous, of the wise, are turned backwards. Well, what do you mean turn backwards? Why they turn backwards? It means God doesn't give them siyata d'shmaya in certain times. Doesn't give them heavenly help because he wants destruction. He doesn't want people to be warned, whatever. So he turns their minds backwards, right? That's just a loose translation, but that's what it means. He turns their eyes backwards. So now, if you have someone that's very wise and their eyes are turned backwards, can they give the right advice? No. God's not going to allow them to give the right advice. Why not? Because he wants destruction. Right? Let's say, in terms of the Holocaust, that was clear. That was clear. Many people did not see how far this was going to go. They said he's a kook, he's a madman, he's this, he's that. Talking about Hitler, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, right? Maybe he brought out Meirat wherever he is. Right? Some said okay, but he's not going to be able to do what he wants. I mean, everybody knew there was such a thing called the, Mein Kampf. He made clear what he was going to do. It's kind of amazing how many languages this book has been translated in and how much it's sold. But anyway, his book was based on the 95 Theses of Martin Luther, right? Father Protestant movement, a rabid anti-Semite, right? That's where he got a lot of his stuff from. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So people looked at him as an absolute kook. But he set out what he was going to do. He didn't make any bones about it. The single biggest problem in history at that time was what was destroying the Jewish people. There was an article earlier about this connection he had to Purim, a tremendous connection to Purim also. But anyway, even without getting into that, so forget about politicians, forget about political pundits, forget about all this stuff. It doesn't matter because nobody knows. Nobody knows. Now, there is a chazal. The rabbis tell us if Russia goes into Turkey, you don't take off your Shabbos because that's when Messiah is going to come. right? That's when the Messiah is going to come. Now, it happened a few years ago, or a number of years ago, that Turkey had downed a Russian plane. Got over the airspace. They warned them, whatever. They still kept over the airspace. They downed the plane. Everyone in the plane died. So Russia's going to attack. I mean, Turkey didn't back down. I mean, considering they're not like a world power, right? Any stretch, no one should be really afraid of Turkey, right? They just beat up on the Kurds and some other small groups, but they're not a world power by any stretch. But even so, you're going to start up with Russia, be that defiant? Like, you got to be an idiot. You got to be an absolute idiot. Now, it happened one other time. One other time that there was, I don't know, many years ago, right? Many years ago that seemingly this happened. And that was a question on what on this was brought down from the Vilna Gaon, from his students. That one of the things he said was, when that happens, you don't take off your Shabbos clothes. So it happened one time before. So the whole question, like, if it happened once before, nothing happened, why expect it now to happen? But anyway, it doesn't matter. But you see, though, even though nothing happened and they backed down, right? But you see anything can happen at any time, right? And if God can make anything happen anytime for his will. Now, does it make any logical sense? A teeny weeny world power over here is going to do something to a major world power. Forget about Russia's losses in the last, last number of things. Come to Ukraine, they're not doing well, and you saw what happened in Chechnya and other places, and in Afghanistan, really, right? Okay, they're not like lighting up the place here, right? Taking over and this and that. They've had problems. That's serious problems. Okay, but still, you imagine, you take a tiny country. Use the Vatican. You never know what's in the basement of the Vatican. They probably have nuclear weapons there. Who knows what? Imagine the Vatican says, you know what, we're sick of Trump. We're sick of America, this, that. We're going to wage war against America. Are you serious? Come on, it's suicide. It's suicide. But, doesn't matter how much gaiva you have, how conceited you are. Same thing. Turkey's going to start up with Russia. Like, come on. No one in their right mind. It wouldn't be in their right mind if they do such a thing. They're crazy because no, we have the right. They don't have the right to fly over our territory without asking, whatever. We don't have to give them permission. They have a lot of trade between them, right? They have a lot of trade between them. It's kind of, it's kind of a silly thing, right? That's kind of a silly thing. You're going to start up with them. Okay. Now, why would this happen? So you can tell me. You can tell me according to nature what a person thinks. They can think for this reason, they can think for that reason, but what's the bottom line? What's the reason of all reason? You know why? Because God wanted to do it. Why? Why did God want them to start up? Could he have orchestrated, in certain ways? That could have been the beginning and the end. World War III could be. I mean, there are a lot of different ways he can do it. Certainly. A lot of people at the beginning stated clear what's going on between Ukraine and the former Soviet Union, and Russia was going to bring World War III. Right? Clear. A lot of people said that. Yeah. Obviously, it didn't happen. Right? So now, you got people talking about, what happened with Zelensky in America, and that, Trump is siding with Putin, and like all these things. Yeah. At the end of the day, he's selling them out, and he wants the minerals, he wants to make a deal, he wants to stop the war. Okay, all these things, very good. Do we have any clue why? We have no clue. People are speculating. That's all it is. I don't care what, a person's like the head of this think tank, and they know Russia inside out, and they know, America inside out, and this and that, and like they're gonna give their whole spiel, right? It's like Purim. That's what it is. They're gonna give their whole thing. And you know what? They have no clue what they're talking about. Why? Why do I say? I don't care how much knowledge they have and how much they've studied this stuff, because God's the one in charge. If God is the one in charge, all this is nothing more than speculation. All it is. At best, it's speculation. The Rebbe says, so why are you wasting your time listening to speculation? God's the one in charge. Can we understand what God does? Can we see God face to face? No. If Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't do it, we certainly can't do it. Right? It's impossible. Very good. So if it's impossible, we got to sit back. Okay, we have to guard ourselves to the best of our ability. Take care of what we need to take care of. Let God do what he needs to do. But all these political pundits and everything else, okay. Every crackpot, call them all crackpots, all crackpots have their own views. Okay. So what? So let them go to, famous square in England and you get on their soapbox and let them say whatever they want. Okay. Is it valid? Why is it valid? Because they're looking at it in a world without God, right? They're looking at the world according to nature and what nature tells them, what the country is like, what they think their motives are in this and that. If we just said before, Leib Malachim B'Yad Hashem, the heart of kings are in the hands of gods, then what would I say? No matter what they do, God's using them like puppets. God is using them to do his will, whatever that's going to be. So only in hindsight can we figure it out. We'll never figure out now, right? All these events, you can say this led to this, and this led to that, and this led to the other thing. Okay. But, when you look at it as part of a whole bigger picture, maybe you see something. Okay, over time. That's exactly the book of Esther. Each event doesn't look significant, as we said, right? Even though they don't look significant, what do I understand? There's a much bigger plan, right? There are many things going on behind the scenes, according to nature, right? But you see, we don't believe in nature. We believe God is nature. We believe God intervenes. We don't have the eyes to see, but sometimes God throws us what I'll call a proverbial bone. He'll put things together, and a person sees it. They can make heads and tails out of it, right? But in general, while you're going through it, seems almost impossible. Almost impossible, right? But that's the thing, as Rabbi says, we get so carried away. We listen to this one, that one. Everyone's giving, their dime store sermon about what they think's going on, and this and that. They have no idea. It's speculation, at best. So say, come on, this person's been in the field 25 years. They know the ins and outs of what they see in front of their face. That's what they see. Or what they think they see. Okay. Remember, history is his story. They're going to present it one way. Someone else is going to present it another way. The other one's going to present it, a third way. Okay. So it's according to what people think. So I'll tell you, what do we care what people think? What does it matter what people think? Why don't we ask God what he thinks? Right? And if God would come to us, I guarantee we'd see a totally different story. Totally different story. Right? So, yeah, there are people that are, political junkies, news junkies, other things. Okay. But what these people say don't matter. That's exactly what I'm saying. The fact that God's in charge. God runs the world. These other people are puppets. So now, back to our case over here. So what do I see? What am I jealous of what someone else has? And what I don't have? You look at the cup as being half full, right? Or half empty. So we always say, people complain because this is bad, that's bad. The other thing's bad, and we've mentioned many times, what looks bad certainly can be good and vice versa, right? We don't know how to look at things, but okay. But even with all that, what am I doing here? Why am I worrying here? God's the one in charge. He absolutely is in charge. So if he's in charge, then I'm not listening to what other people say. I don't, it's interesting. People are going to give their different spin, what they think it's going to be. Okay. Yeah. If I see, listen, there's a pattern. There's a pattern in Jewish history. And if this happens or that happens, the other things happen, okay, I can see a pattern, perhaps. But essentially, we don't know what we're seeing here. No idea. A good example of what's going on in the States now. Yeah. The miracle Trump got in, a pretty big miracle he got out, and he came back. And even a bigger miracle that everyone's got around him are all pro-Israel. It's uncanny. Uncanny, right? Netanyahu says, his biggest friend that Israel's ever had. That's not a question. That's absolutely not a question, right? But at the same time, he's a puppet also. He says what he thinks. That's why people hate him, because he's not a real politician. And he acts on a whim a lot of times. Okay, he's got a lot of flaws, right? No question. But the fact he's helping Israel is a big thing, right? It's a huge thing. It's a total reversal to previous administrations. Not even close. Biden for 4 years, Obama for 8 years, both the same. Anti-Israel, very anti-Israel. This is a whole different thing. Whole different thing altogether. So now, why is he coming now? All of a sudden, he's coming now. You got the next 4 years. Other things to come. We'll see what he brings, see what happens. Can anyone predict? I don't think anyone's going to predict. I don't think anyone can predict. You're talking about someone totally unpredictable, but even so, how is it going to plan out? How is it going to pan out in the bigger scheme of things? You got a lot of people talking. People saying he's making these tariffs. He's going to bankrupt America. Other countries going to hate him. This or that. Okay, people are saying all kinds of things. Do we know what's true? Maybe world experts in economics. Yeah, could be. Could they be wrong? Sure. You say, what about their experience of 25 years, 20 years, whatever? Well, I don't care. They're not in charge. Can God put a wacko in president, make the economy go sky high? Sure. Could he make it go into the ground? Sure. Does it matter on the person? No. Doesn't matter. He is a puppet. He's a total puppet. If he's a total puppet, why am I worrying about it? Because hey, you got to live and, you got to take precautions. Okay. But again, what these other people say don't matter. It's not that they don't matter. It's a waste of time. Because they're never going to figure it out anyway. Just like the book of Esther. You never would have figured it out. Never. But we know the story. We know what happened. Esther hadn't been to the king in 30 days. That could be death penalty. Death penalty. Yeah. Mordechai says it could be. It could be. That's what you were chosen to be queen. To be able to save the Jewish people in this situation. And she says, I'm going in and I could, if I perish, I perish. You say that's suicide. She's trying to save the Jewish people. She doesn't know 100% she's going to get killed. Right? But it's certainly not good. But she found favor in Achashverosh's eyes and whatever. We know the story. But if you look at it a little bit deeper, these things never should have happened. They shouldn't have happened. Someone never, hasn't come in 30 days. Chutzpah. You're going into the king? He hasn't called you in 30 days? What do you mean? You could be giving up your life. 100%. But you see, each thing is integral to the story. So comes along Rabbeinu Yonah over here, and we'll give an answer now. Right? That, Rabbeinu Yonah says, why am I worried what other people have? God's in charge. God runs everything. We don't always understand what God does and how he does things. A lot of things, according to us, don't make sense. Good. They don't make sense. They're not supposed to make sense. Because God runs the world. There'll be plenty of things. And that's not a leap of faith. It's, if you want to tell me there are mitzvahs, we don't really understand, we're going to keep them anyway. So you have to understand to the best of your ability. But the way God runs the world in general and how we see it, two totally different things. Right? It's kind of funny. If someone's going to call out God and why would God, kill innocent people and this and that, if God is good, right? They'll say, there's a tsunami, knock out half of Southeast Asia. Put Atlas back on the map, God forbid. Or you make a hurricane, right? Innocent people die. People will say innocent people die. Now, is there such a thing? God tells the angel of death, take these people, whatever. Are they innocent? Now, if you tell me, they're underage, right? They're under the age of punishment, whether they're under the age of 12 or 13 or under the age of 20. Okay, so there's something else going on, right? A child born with leukemia, something like that. It's not the child's fault, not the parent's fault, right? Right? Not the parent's fault. Very good. Yeah, but they have to go through it, right? So whatever reason they have to go through it. What about everything else? What about everything else? Like chance, right? That's where the question comes in. That you see, quote unquote, innocent people suffer. But there's a cheshbon. Yeah. Cheshbon means it's a calculation. God has a calculation. So anyone who gets taken or anything else out of this world is because they are deemed to be taken out of this world. Because God decreed they should die. I spoke about this in Q&A right a while back. That when anyone dies, doesn't matter, young, old, this, that, they had a death sentence on them. Could be disgusting way they die, not disgusting way. Look what happened on October 7th. Yeah, people will say they desecrated Shabbos. Yes. They desecrated the festival. Yes. They had a Buddha there. Yes. But that wasn't the reason. All these things, no rabbis come out and said that's the reason they all were killed. And the way they were killed and taken into captivity. There was a divine decree made on Rosh Hashanah. You went through Yom Kippur, 10 days of repentance, Yom Kippur. You went through Sukkot. It didn't overcome the decree. That's why it happened. It was a divine decree, and it was not overturned. You could say it was a disgusting way to go, and what happened? Yeah, it is a horrific pogrom, no question. Absolutely no question. So even when you see something like that, you get shaken. For sure you get shaken. Right? And then you had, a few weeks back, these kids finally got their mother back or whatever. I mean, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. There's no question, but there was a divine decree. Now, why was there a divine decree? There's any number of reasons, right? But this was when the decree is going to come out. They had to have done other things for that to happen. I'm not saying why it happened. Don't know why it happened. Nobody knows why it happened. We could guess. We could definitely guess and say, oh, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, maybe it was the other thing. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Doesn't matter. All right? Doesn't matter. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's a horrific decree. That's it. God runs the world. So the problem is, as we always say, a lot of people look at the cup as half empty. That's how they look at the cup. This is bad. That's bad. The other thing's bad. Like nothing ever in their life has been good. Nothing. Nobody's never had in this world nothing good. That means you never had clothes, starving to death, living outside on the streets. I mean, that's bad. Most people don't have that. There are some people that do, but most people don't. Not happy you can breathe. Not happy you don't have arthritis. Or even if you do, it comes back off and on. Or other things. Got to be happy what you have. So many things to be thankful for. What's the only problem? As we always say, get beaten down in life. When you get beaten down in life, it's hard to see the good. It's hard to see the good. But we have to give ourselves over and say, God is the one in charge. I have to put my best foot forward. That there's no question. There's absolute no question. You got to put yourself forward. Got to put your best foot forward. As we always say, it's not a guarantee for anything. Chosavova says in Sharpie Tachon, right? The gate of faith and belief in God. It's nothing. You have to do it. Was that a guarantee for success? No. The only guarantee for success is God's going to help you. That's it. And if God doesn't bless it, you can huff and puff, try and blow his house down. It's not going to help. 3 little pigs. Yeah, never help. God's the one in charge. So if God's the one in charge, says Rabbeinu Yonah, right? Applying this now to what Rabbeinu Yonah says. If he's in charge and he takes care of our needs, whether we think he should do more or not, doesn't matter. If he takes care of our needs, what am I lacking? What am I lacking? Why am I looking at what someone else has? Okay, so God allowed them to have more. Okay. And he allowed them, their kids are doing this, that. First of all, person does not know what goes on behind closed doors either. We look at things on the outside and we say, oh, they have this, they have that. They must be so happy. They could be miserable. They can be absolutely miserable, even, if they live in the lap of luxury, which is most people. Right? How do I know? Because a lot of people on Prozac. Okay. But you see people got money doesn't mean they're happy. Even if they have one or two kids doesn't mean they're happy with them either. With different things. Okay. Yeah. So what we see on the outside is not a guarantee what's going on the inside. Now, maybe it is. Maybe what you see is what's going on. We don't know. Nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. You can speculate. You can think you know. As Rav Dessler says, others say the same thing. You cannot judge a person until you've been in their shoes. That means you have to be in the same situation as they are, or they were, then you can open your mouth. But unless you're not in the same situation, you don't have any right whatsoever to open your mouth. But we do it all the time, right? We judge, for the first time we meet someone. Again, what's the first question you're going to ask? Where you're from and what do you do? Right? Usually the first two questions. So you already size up the person. I'm not saying it's right, but forget about where they live. That really doesn't matter either to a certain extent. But you're sizing them up by what they do. Person's in construction. That's how you define them. They're an actuary. They're an accountant. They're a doctor. They're a lawyer. They're a teacher. Okay, there's certain things may define in a certain way how the person is. Like they like to help others, give to others, this and that. Okay. But at the end of the day, even if that's true, and they give of themselves, what about their home life? They give as much to their spouse. They give as much to their kids. There are a lot of people like helping, saving lives in different ways, and they're nowhere near around for the kids, for the spouse. They're out saving the world. They take a back seat. It's gonna be some level of balance, but anyway, that's not the topic. The point is, we very easily look at people, what they do, and that's how we look at them, right? That's how we judge them. How much money they make, where they go, where they hang out, different things. But again, in the heart of hearts of a person, you don't know. You certainly don't know. And what goes behind closed doors, you also don't know. Right? You also don't know. So someone mentions, what happened in Colombia, they, taking $400 million away. They get a grant of $5 billion. This is like a drop in the bucket. If they don't toe the line, they're going to lose everything. Right? So all of a sudden, it's pretty amazing. All of a sudden, no one said anything the last year. Nothing. Nothing, all these protests, nothing. Yeah? Except when, Trump came into power and then, knocked these people out, let's say. Let's say. All of a sudden, they started to act. Now, some are claiming that's all it is, because none of these people are ever going to get arrested and turned away by them. But whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. But what's the point? What are people saying? Right? You said the same thing, right? What are people saying? It's a great thing. They're finally getting hit in the pocket, and a lot of other institutions lined up to take a hit also. So we'll see. So you say, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do. Now they're going to have to move. Now they're going to have to do something, right? Because they don't want to lose that kind of funding. I mean, a huge amount of funding. I mean, $5 billion is a lot of money. $400 million is also a lot of money. Yeah. Even tell me it's not, it's not worth more than, it's worth a lot less than it used to be. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a good chunk of money. It's a very good chunk of money. So, the question is, and again, it really doesn't matter, but the question is, what's that really going to do? Some would say, again, and this is all speculation. right? Which really doesn't matter, but I'll just throw it out there. Some will say that, it's going to look like they're taking action, but the reality is, when everything's quiet, they're going to let them back in. So, is it going to happen? It's not going to happen. Okay, it's a good start. Definitely a good start. No one's checked them. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Imagine if this happened to Blackstone, or it happened to, Puerto Ricans, or it happened to Asians. Yeah, well, discrimination against them also. Yeah, there'd be a much greater uproar. A much greater uproar. But the reason there's not a much greater uproar, with everything happening is because they're Jews. That's clear. And they're connecting, what they're doing, because A, they hate Jews, but now they're connecting it to what Israel's doing in Gaza. Right? Okay. One thing is, can say it has nothing to do with the other, or maybe they do, right? But at the end of the day, it shows Jews are different. And at the end of the day, what do you learn? What do you learn from this? Exactly what we said before. You never rely on Basa V'dam. You don't rely on mankind. Roosevelt sent away Jews coming in during the war, definitely had blood on his hands, sent them back to be killed, right, in Europe, didn't take them in. So who's to say someone's not going to, someone comes in power is not going to help? You see that, you can't rely on them. You say, but you got Trump there, very good. You got a lot of people surrounding him, very good. Yeah, it's tremendous, I'm not saying not. But look what happened the last 12 years. Last 12 years been the worst time for Israel and the American administration. There's no question. Right? That's not a question. And even times you have Republican presidents, also wasn't so groovy. Also wasn't so great. Some were better. Some not. But it's the first time Israel's ever been given the right to do whatever the heck they want. First time. They say it's an open miracle. Okay, but at the same time, it's not in Trump we trust. It's not in America we trust. It's in God we trust. So if we really trust in God and really believe that He's in charge, so what are we complaining about? What in the world are we complaining about? Yeah, we need a lot of help and all kinds of things, right? It's all true. Right? It's all true. We can't do anything without Him. But we forget that He runs the world. Because if we really believed in our heart of hearts, if we really believe He's in charge, right, then what, I got nothing to worry about. He'll take care of business. And, He may squeeze us to like the bottom of the toothpaste, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen? He's in charge. But it's very hard, and right, this happens a lot. It's very hard, even to say that and to believe it, when you're on your knees. Very hard. It's the obvious question, right? It's the obvious question. Because if God is all good and I'm working hard, I'm trying, and this and that, here's all the time. This person has it easy, and this isn't fair. It's not a question. Get it out of your head. It's not a question of what's fair. That's not what life is. Life is about reward and punishment and about how God runs the world. And if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, I'm in trouble. God can have mercy. Not going to be infinite mercy. And there's payback for what I do. So that's your own personal interaction between you and God. And God's going to define it or whatever. He's going to deal with the person the way He feels has to be dealt with, measure for measure. Right? You can say, I didn't choose to be in this body. I didn't choose, to have these parents. You're right. You didn't. God put you in that body. Right? He put that soul in the body. Okay. Yeah. No choice who your parents are, siblings are, socioeconomic situation. You have no choice. You're born against your will, you die against your will. Okay. But you still have to live. You still have to do what He says. and it's not about what's fair. It's not about what's fair. I think people really miss the point, right? I understand the pain. I understand you getting beaten down in life and life seems impossible. Yeah. A lot of times it looks like that. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not, but guess what? God is the one in charge. He can change anything the blink of an eyelash, right? Yeshua Hashem Ka'erafai. Salvation of God comes in the blink of an eyelash. Literally. Can come overnight where you least expect it. Most times where you least expect it. And that's the point, but you gotta live it. You gotta believe it. And you gotta put your best foot forward instead of crying over tears. It's not worth it. You gotta be strong. That's what we gotta do. We gotta serve God no matter what. Whether it's easier, whether it's harder, whether it seems impossible. It doesn't matter. We're going through this because God feels this is the best thing for us. And even getting squeezed like the bottom of the toothpaste, still good. Now you gotta say, what's the benefit? Because then a person's gonna realize nothing I do matters unless God changes the situation. You gotta be better. You gotta work harder. It's all true. And you have to get rid of distractions. And distraction is the most fun part. Gotta get rid of these things. They're never gonna help us. Time, I had one of my kids, over for Purim, for Shabbos. So I have a 11-year-old grandson. So it's funny, he's a couple years younger than my son. So like, at the Shalom Zocher Friday night when he was born. So, my son was running around saying, I'm an ankle. I'm like, no, you idiot, you're an uncle, right? Right? It's only like 2 year difference. So like, it's kind of funny, like, as they're, growing up and like, share bath time, share toys, different things, now it's, interested in getting older. In any case, so he said something. I just lost my train of thought. He said something today that, he said, okay, he's an 11-year-old kid. I never said this to an 11-year-old kid. Yeah, for sure. I don't know anyone who really said this. And that is time's going by very quick. Usually when you're a kid, you say the opposite. Things are taking forever. When am I going to grow? When am I going to this? When that going to happen? This going to happen, right? It seems like it takes forever. When you get older, next thing you know, you got a gray beard, like, if you're a guy, right? Time goes by very quick. King David says, we're in this world for 70 years. We have strength 80 years. Everything over that, my language is a bonus. But to have a kid say, life goes by very fast, right? Right? You take a little bit notice of that. You can understand. Things change in life. Things can change dramatically in life. Overnight. Things can happen. But the fact that what he says is very true. As an adult, it's very easy to see that. Life goes by fast. Right? So, what's going to be down the line that, as my Rebbe would say, that, bottom line, he said, when should a person start thinking already about the next one? He said, by the time a person's 50. Why? Because the Torah says when the Levites start working the temple, it's different of opinion in the Torah that says one place says they start when they're 25, another place they start when they're 30. So Rashi asked the question, what's the discrepancy? Can't be both. Can't start, both times. It's 5 year difference, right? So he gives an answer that those 5 years that a person learns, give an opportunity to learn, see if he can become something. If he sees having success, okay, then you see become something. But if you don't see in those 5 years, really learning hard or whatever, that anything's going to come out of them, then nothing will come out of them, right? As being a Torah scholar or whatever. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, when does the Levite stop serving? When he's 50. The Rebbe learns from that when a person's 50, they got to start thinking already about the next one. They already got to start preparing, for the next one. So I remember when I first met him, one of the first times I met him, he told me, at this point he was in his late 60s. And he said, I don't live in this world. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I see you eat, see you drink, see you do other things. But we don't live in this world. So I'm already thinking of the next one. I'm already thinking about, next, spiritual. I'm preparing now, for the next one. The first thing I thought, when I heard that is, who talks like that? Okay, he's older. I mean, I just turned 99, right, a few weeks back, right? But next year will be 100, be a pretty big milestone, right? Nonetheless, he was in his late 60s. So a person, you get older, and your body starts to break down and different things. You start thinking about, what's going to be. So if you don't have Torah or mitzvahs, it's just depressing because you think you're just going to go in the ground and nothing else. But in any case, so that's depressing. But if what are you living in this world for? You live in this world to serve God the best of your ability. But you have to know how to live. You certainly have to know how to live, and you have to know, when to die or how to die. Person has to be prepared for that also, because the Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the exarch, Rabbi Yehuda the Prince, the leader of the Jewish people, said, I'm not worried if I was going in front of if I die or when I die, I'm not worried about going in front of a flesh and blood king. He said, what am I worried about? I'm going to be going in front of the King of Kings. When you go in front of the King of the Kings, you got to answer. Right? What are you going to answer to the King of Kings? He knows everything. Past, present, future. So the student said, okay, do you have a blessing for us? So he said, he basically told him, you should have fear of God. Right? He said, that's it? Right? That's the words of advice. He said, if you follow that, you have proper fear of heaven, then you have everything. You don't have fear of heaven, you have nothing. The fear of heaven, the highest level, right, is understanding that, we call Eurysis Romans. The idea that God's awesomeness, God's above nature, right, as we said before. God is nature, takes care of nature, all these things. Right? Awesomeness of the human body, seeing God through the human body. It's huge. Right? It's not about just I'm going to keep what God says because otherwise I'm afraid I'm going to fry in hell forever. Right? That's a low level. That you're going to keep things out of fear, right? Out of fear of punishment. Okay. That's not going to lead you to love of God. Love of God will lead you to that. Lead you to fear of God. Fear of God will not necessarily lead you, right, to love of God. So why am I serving him? I'm serving him because I have to do what he says. I have to do what the king says. Right? If I don't do what the king says, I'm in trouble. Now, it depends what level of knowledge you have, depends why you do things. I mean, it depends on a lot of different things. It doesn't matter. But that's the bottom line. Jew and non-Jew, wherever non-Jews hold in the world, right? They don't want to convert, that's fine. They can stay in Noahide, right? They stay in Noahide, very good. They also have to keep things that are universal. Now, I would say that they would have to keep things that are a moral imperative. That even if it's not universal, there's a certain moral level non-Jews should uphold by. Right? Even if the laws of Lashon Hara, as we always say, don't apply to them, speaking badly against others, it's not a good thing to do. Right? Certainly not a good thing to do. Everybody does it, so what? Doesn't mean you should do it. Or a person should curse, right? You ask a person, would you ever curse in front of your kids? So if they're younger, they would say never. Never curse in front of my kids. Some people say, I didn't even curse in front of my kids. Okay. Right? And if they're older, they're not going to care. Right? They won't care. Everybody curses. But don't you think a person should have a higher awareness? Don't you think people shouldn't speak like truck drivers? It's funny, when I heard elderly people curse or cuss, as they may say in the South. Yeah. Younger people, I understand. I can understand. But you know what? Even someone's older, it doesn't matter. Or curse. Right? So you can say it's the way in the world. What do you want from me? Because we're held to a higher standard. This is something universal. Right? There's a minimal standard even for non-Jews. That's just not good for them. It's not good for them. Now, are they going to get death penalty if they do it? No. Yeah, I would say it's a moral imperative. Others would say, no, it definitely applies. Right? It definitely applies even to non-Jews. So these things that are universal, they're basic. See, a non-Jew can never have a claim against God after 120 years. God's going to say, did you keep the no-hide laws? I didn't know what the no-hide laws were. So how was I supposed to know? God says the universal laws. Oh, I see over here, you cheated on your taxes. No, that's different. It's not stealing. Uncle Sam takes too much, right? Or, I see over here you gave the green light to turn off life support, when it was forbidden, for grandpa or whatever. No, what do you mean? That was mercy. We got off his pacemaker. It was mercy. He was suffering too much. How'd you not know? So that definition, well, what's really murder, what's not, that's not the topic here. But, in general, people think, oh, yeah, how was I ever supposed to know? What do you mean? Tens of thousands, millions of people worshiping cows in India. Okay. But, there are Indians that get out of it if they want to. Because the Gemara says, if you want to go on the right path, God will help you. If you want to go on the wrong path, God won't stop you. So yeah, everybody's got a choice. Everybody's got a choice. I think too many people just sitting on the brains. Because the mind's a terrible thing, right? Anyone remember that commercial? Right? They're getting people to read more. They have this commercial saying the mind's a terrible thing to waste. So now everything got shorter. Now you just say a mind's a terrible thing. It's a sad thing. 95% would rather die than think. The bottom line, nobody thinks. Nobody wants to think. Life is, too heavy. God says, I don't care. I put you in this world. Right? I put you in this world, even against your will. Doesn't matter. I put you in this world to what? To toil. And you're going to see a lot of things you don't understand. And I'm not going to show you why. Maybe in some ways. Maybe. But you're never going to know, so it doesn't matter. What is your obligation? To serve God at the most amount of faith as possible in Him. That is what we're doing here. And that's the whole point of Purim. Right? You see God's hiddenness within hiddenness, but through nature, you see God's there all the time. Even if every single event doesn't look like something important, right? Totally doesn't look like something important. And each event is crucial in order to get Haman killed. It's crucial. You don't have one of those events that doesn't get killed. Even at the end, where he's pinned down on Esther's couch or bed or whatever, and the Gemara says, angels are pinning him down. So after he hears the whole thing, he goes outside and he sees these elves, disguised as angels, like chopping down his beautiful garden, right? So he says, hey, who told you to do this? And Haman, right? So it's getting madder. Comes back into the house, he's pinned down. God opens his eyes, pinned down by angels. But he can't say there are angels there. He's Amalek, doesn't believe in angels. If he would have said it, Achashverosh wouldn't have believed him. He's an offshoot of Amalek. So it's like, you're going to take my wife right in front of my face? He's got nothing to answer. But he's still not going to kill him. He's still not going to kill him. Two peas in a pod. Best friends, chums, whatever. He's still not going to kill him. When does he kill him? Comes along Harvona. And Harvona is Elijah the prophet. And he shows him. He said, you see those gallows? 50 cubits high? Those gallows were for Mordecai. Haman was going to kill him. And that was his whole plan along. Right? All along. To kill Mordecai. Once Achashverosh saw that and he felt his life was threatened, then he killed him. But it was like the last resort. Absolutely last resort. Right? So you see, all these events, even though Achashverosh was like, no, I'm not going to kill him. No, he did this, I'm still not going to kill him. Still not going to kill him. But right before Haman goes into the palace of the king, they erect these gallows, right? That's what the wife says, erect these gallows so he can hang Mordecai. Very good. And they left the gallows up. Very good. That's what got him killed. That's ultimately what got him killed. Because Achashverosh, some say he was a dummy, some say he wasn't a dummy, and it was very bright or whatever. Okay, right? But at the end of the day, when he thought his life was threatened, even by his best buddy, that's it. How do you know whose blood is redder? Right? So in this case, he's going to protect himself. But he doesn't want to kill his buddy. He doesn't want to kill his best friend. Right? Person he's trusted all this time. And he agreed to kill the Jewish people. Right? Certainly hated the Jewish people, no question. What to have seen his face when when Esther tells him, my people have been sold, and then he understands, that Haman sold her people. Like, he's not a great lover of Jews by any stretch. They were two peas in a pod. He agreed. Haman was willing to give him $1 billion back in the day. It's so much wealth. And Achashverosh says, nah, keep the money. Do what you want. I give you full reign. Do what you want. For free. You see, Jewish blood is hefker. Right? It's onerous. But anyway, he feels threatened. Once he feels threatened, that's it. Right? He can't take chances now. No matter how friendly with it, you have to have him killed. You have to have him killed. So at the end of the day, God's there the whole time. Each event is significant. But that is the test of this generation. The test of this generation is faith and belief in God. Now, why is that? Because we're going to see so many things, right? We're going to see so many things that don't make sense, right? That absolutely don't make sense. And that's going to be the test at the end of this. That will be the test. And we see a lot of things don't make sense. Certainly within the last 100 years, more. All these things, and all these different events going on. It's mind-boggling. Because the Chofetz Chaim said, before the Messiah comes, generations are going to be moving very quickly. Someone told me in Jewish education, someone's a Jewish educator, told me it's like every couple of years now. Every couple of years now, it's like a generation. Things are moving really fast. So I remember I was explaining this like 25 years ago to, some yeshiva students, 18, 19 years old. So they said, what does that mean? What does that mean the generations go much quicker? So I said at that time, I was only like a generation and a half removed from these guys. And I told them, I grew up without Microsoft Windows. They, in the million years, cannot understand, like, what are you talking about? Would you use a slide rule, an abacus? Like, they couldn't even imagine. Windows 3.1, I refused to, move to Windows 95. Anyone remembers 95 back in the day? Yeah. I couldn't use anything anymore. Right? None of my programs worked. So I had to go back, and finally had to upgrade. Right? So, now, I remember when I was in university, in college, after the first semester, someone came back with a Commodore 64. You remember 64K? Your phones had more than 64K. A lot more. Then TRS-80, or they called the Trash 80 from Radio Shack, had on 28K. They went to floppy disks and smaller disks and whatever. Everything went much quicker, but today it's a joke. The technology we have is unbelievable. Today is there's no question. But at the same time, this is what's going to happen because time's running out. Right? There's only another 200 so odd years, right, till the year 6000. So we certainly believe, the Ramban says, every day of creation was 1,000 years. So you got 6,000 years. 6,000 years, the Gemara says Messiah has to come. Then the world gets destroyed. You have 1,000 years like Shabbos. You have a seventh, like a seventh day, a 7,000 year, whatever. And then the world comes back, however the world's going to look, and you have resurrection of the dead. Right? The whole question exactly when resurrection of the dead comes right after the Messiah, comes before, right? It comes after, and Olam Haba, whatever, the whole discussion. Which comes first and how it comes, and it's gonna come after the Messiah for sure. The only question is that before the world gets destroyed, if it's after, how does it work? Right? What type of body is it? When are we gonna come out? Who's gonna come out? Very good. A lot of questions, nothing definitive, no answers. Right? No real answers. But at the end of the day, we don't have that much time. So since we don't have that much time, God, what does he have to do? He has to accelerate it. He has to make sure it's going to happen, before that time. Now, do I imagine it's going to take 200 years? No. I think it's going to be a lot less than that. How much less? Don't know. But things are happening very fast. A lot of things. A lot of things going on. That's, first of all, a lot of things don't make any sense. And second of all, how it's going to fit all this, into the bigger picture. Many people are claiming going to make all these tariffs, and America's going to go bankrupt. Yeah. And isolate himself from NATO, from other things. Like what's going to be over here? Yeah, that's a good question. All these are good questions. What is God going to do? How is it going to play out? Do we have any idea how it's going to play out? We don't know. Maybe a lot of universities in the States that are getting all kinds of money, they're all going to shut down now. Yeah, because they don't have any of these grants anymore. So a lot of things are going to shut down, maybe. Not a bad thing. I don't think it'd be a bad thing. Right? But, that could happen in theory. I mean, even if people are paying all kinds of money to go to these institutions, they're paying like $100,000 a year or less, whatever, whatever it is, okay. But you start taking away serious chunks of money, they're not gonna be, these programs that they're going towards it, they ain't gonna survive. Right? Again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, depends what it is, but so you have, they claim more than 50 universities going after. So let's see what happens. Let's see what they do. But it's interesting. Once, Columbia University hasn't done anything. Not to expel people, not to stop people, they haven't done anything. Claiming, free speech or who knows what. Right? They've done zero. Now all of a sudden they're gonna get hit with a $400 million rap over here. Right? That they're gonna get hit with. All of a sudden now they make statements. Now they're gonna start to do something. Let's see. Let's see that be the case. This guy's been, rallying people around and this time. Let's see if he gets expelled. Let's see if they throw him out. Yeah. Hopefully that'll happen, but it's not about free speech. It has nothing to do with free speech. I mean, they're vandalizing property, terrorizing people. It's not about free speech. Right? Because everybody's got, First Right Amendment. Forget about that. Causing damage. Causing fear, causing damage. What kind of country is going to have people that want to burn down their flag and everything else? So tell them to get the hell out. That's it. Tell them to get out. Send them out. Make a law that says if you do anything against the state, we'll throw you out as a foreigner. Not fascist. Then you had all these Democrats or whatever supporting these people. It's even crazier. That, it doesn't make any sense. You see, true anti-Semites, they don't care. They don't care. But anyway, God's the one in charge. You don't see, by the way, one of the things you don't see from this also is the fact that you don't see people leaving and coming to Israel. Now you're going to say, come on, you have to know how you're going to make money here, how you're going to survive here. If you have family there, you can't leave, whatever, but you don't see massive influence. Certainly not. I'm not saying America is like about to be taken over and, it's going to be what happened in Germany. I mean, I don't know. Some people made that claim for a number of years. All right, I don't know. No one would have expected this amount of anti-Semitism right now. That's true. That's also true. I'm not saying it can't happen, but someone told me after October 7th, a lot of Orthodox Jews buying guns. Nobody's coming here. Make no mistake. Majority of people are not coming here. They're not coming here. They're arming themselves. Okay. I think at some point maybe the writing's going to be, on the wall. It's going to be too late at some point. But, nobody knows. But if you're living the life of Riley and you're doing okay, more than okay, why would you leave? So you have better protection. You're not going to leave. Right? Again, it's if people have a good excuse why they don't leave, they earn better there, get married there, they're doing well there, whatever. Okay. Living in Israel is not, not easy by any stretch. Everybody would say you got to come here first. You got to check things out. You got to see how you're going to survive. Right. So, you can't just come on a whim. Right. But at the same time, a lot of people are very happy where they are. That's what exile is. They're too happy where they are. They're too satisfied where they are. You tell me it's a language barrier, it's this barrier, that barrier. Okay, well, things can be, worked out. But there are tens of thousands of people who wouldn't even think of coming. Wouldn't even think of coming. I had somebody tell me, I'll tell you how far exile goes. I wouldn't say this person was the most religious person, but, he said, you come to Israel in the winter. Now it feels like summer here, which is kind of crazy. Purim's usually supposed to be cold and rainy and dreary, and it was like It's like almost like 70 degrees. It's about like 20, 25, 26 degrees Celsius. I mean, it's like crazy. It's usually next week, but it's supposed to get colder, and like a lot of rain and like extremely cold by the end of the week. But okay, it's kind of crazy weather now. But at the same time, right? At the same time, um, what's going on? With all this, no one in the right mind would think about leaving. If they got a good excuse why they don't come here, okay. But if you don't have a good excuse, what's the excuse not to be here? Right? But again, if it's impossible, my Rebbe would say in the name of his father, better be a Jew outside of Israel that has dreams of coming to Israel, even though they can't come, better than a Jew in Israel wants to leave and go and have dreams of leaving. Yeah. So if you can get there, good. If you can't get there, okay. Right? There are a number of reasons why a person doesn't have to leave. Right? But the problem is the person's living in exile and they're living the good life. Oh, the story was, I forgot what I was talking about. The story was, this guy tells me in the winter, that's why I mentioned it, right? It can still be cold, rainy weather here now. That in the winter, it's cold. You go inside, it's also cold, like everything made out of stone. Gotta be like in the Flintstone. So like, you never feel totally warm. I mean, it's better. I mean, people have better heating systems or whatever, but okay. This guy complains, like, I can never imagine, like in the end of days, coming to Israel. It's too cold, it's dreary in the winter, this, that. Essentially, you wear a sweater. You wear, heavier clothing. It's like now, like going on and on and on. Finally, I said, at the end of the day, when the Messiah comes, there's going to be no evil inclination. So you're going to come anyway, right? You're going to come anyway because you're going to only be doing God's will. That means you don't have an evil inclination. You'll be doing God's will. Very good. It's like, that's not the point. I'm like, that is exactly the point. Not a question of what's going to be, it's too cold, I'm not going to want to come, I'm happy where I am. That's the exile mentality. Being happy, living in a non-Jewish country. I'm not saying everything's great living in, with government's Erev and the mixed multitude and all that, but like, there's a major difference. Major difference. Let's say you live in a neighborhood, right? You live in a neighborhood, let's say, like where I live, and like, yeah, Purim's chaos. It's a lot of chaos there. You see people, the month of Elul building sukkahs. Everyone's building a sukkah, right? It's a different atmosphere. Now, there are certain places, that, you're cut off from everything else. That's very good, right? That's very good. Yeah, but most places you have non-Jews also. It's kind of, kind of uncanny also. You have a lot of Jewish communities that who live right nearby, Muslims. Just stick it to it. Make sure you feel like an exile. Somebody asked, they're all not speak for family for their choice overdose. Father, when he was in the hospital giving birth to my son, they cremated him. Oh. I want to go to afterwards. If I forget but do not return, is that acceptable? If it's done, if it's done against the person's will, it's one thing. Right? I would say that the Torah says that when God's declared that's going to be death to the world, meaning death to a person, so everyone's going to die. So seemingly, what does the Torah say? You come from the dust, you have to go back into the dust. That means they should be buried. Now, who says by a non-Jew they can't be cremated? Right? You'll say they're in the image of God. Right? You'll say they're in the image of God, right? So even if they're in the even if they're image of God, they can what's the problem? What exactly what's the problem here? It shouldn't be an issue. They get cremated, right? Definitely a lot of responses say that a non-Jew can be cremated. So what's the problem? If we hold a non-Jew can be cremated, it's not a problem. Now, do they have to be buried? Seems like they should be buried. According to the Torah, there's an obligation to be buried. And that was talking to non-Jews, so they should be buried. Now the question is, do you have to forgive them? They didn't do anything wrong. According to this, they didn't do anything wrong. They're allowed to cremate him, right? He's a non-Jew, they can cremate him. Oh, tell me he's a Jew. Forgot. Right. So let's make it easy. If he was a non-Jew, there's nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. Now, if there was no possible way you could have stopped it, then you're not held liable. They're definitely not held liable. If it's possible, and there are organizations that help people with this. If it is possible to stop a Jew, let's say as a relative, to stop from being cremated, then a big mitzvah to do so. Yeah. Even if it costs you money, big mitzvah to do so. Right? If it's a non-Jew, you don't have an obligation. But if it's a Jew, it's out of your control. Right? If you were giving birth, you couldn't stop it, then what could you do? It's out of your control. You're under onus. That's what onus means. It's totally out of your control. If it could have been in your control to do something, different issue. But if not, then you're off the hook. So now the dreams of going to Israel, praying of God makes that possible. I worry I won't be able to convert because I keep hearing an angel as a child I found insane. No, you don't have to worry. Listen, not everybody makes it here. Vilna Gaon never made it here. Chofetz Chaim never made it here. Right? They tried, both of them tried, but they saw from heaven they were stopped. So for whatever reason, they weren't allowed to come here. But it's a big thing to live in Israel, there's no question. But it doesn't mean it's accessible to everybody. Right? It definitely doesn't mean that. Right? It's possible. But not everyone has that merit. I think it's an incredible stat that most Jews in America have never been to Israel. I think it's like a pretty amazing stat. Yeah, so and they have no idea what goes on here. Like I know we see from what the media says, but they have no idea. If you'd ask most Reform Jews what the top 10 issues are facing Reform Jewry today, number 257 is going to be the women at the wall, and they don't even have an idea because they want to have like equality at the Western Wall. Yeah, I guarantee most Reform Jews never heard of it. Guarantee. They have no idea, about that quote unquote struggle at all. None. Yeah. So like what goes on in Israel, they the Orthodox have too much power, but they have no idea. They have absolutely no idea what's going on. So, is an obligation to come? Listen, there is an opinion among rabbinic authorities for a Jew. Right? Some say it's an absolute obligation. Others say it's only an obligation if you get there. Right? If it fits certain criteria, you're able to come. Good. If not, you'd say, well, the end of the Gemara Kesubah says, if I live outside the land, it's like I have no God, so you have to come live here. No, not necessarily. It means not having a God means you don't see things direct like you would here. Things in Israel are much more direct. Right? We saw a few weeks ago with the five buses blown up at the wrong time. That's pretty direct. That you see like divine providence. Outside of Israel, it's sometimes not so easy to see. Not so easy to see. Gotta have a keen eye to be able to see. Right? In Israel, it's a lot easier. Things, you're in God's backyard, so you see things all the time. Right? In many ways. But, again, as my Rebbe's father said, better to be a non-Jew outside of Israel wants to come here than a Jew in Israel wants to go there. Right? So not everyone has the merit to get here. But, someone told me when they were coming from a certain country, they said for 3 years, every single day was on their mind about coming. They did everything in their power within 3 years to make it happen. Yeah, so, not an easy thing to do. Definitely not, definitely not an easy thing to do. And even when a person gets here, sometimes it's hard to stay here. For a lot of different reasons. But, is it a big mitzvah? Sure. But again, not everyone's going to merit it. And the person didn't merit it, okay. A lot of things that we don't necessarily merit, that, even if we want it, you can pray for it. You can, so we tell God to put you in the right direction to help you, this and that. Okay. Not a guarantee, right? Definitely not a guarantee. I know someone, came here, but they came under different, as a non-Jew and whatever, the whole thing, they're supposed to be accepted, and they weren't. They had all kinds of problems. Had all kinds of problems. Ended up going back and lost a lot of money in the process. But they weren't meant to be here. They could say, well, according to nature, maybe they did it themselves. They didn't look into it further. This rabbi, they were supposed to be accepted, and like all kinds of different things. But at the end of the day, what happened? They got spit out. That's what happened. They totally got spit out. So, to want to come here is a big thing, no question. Does everyone who wants to come here get here? No. But I would say that's not even the issue. There are so many people that should want to come here, they don't want to come here. They're happy where they are. That's the problem with the exile. Exactly the problem with the exile. People have no interest in coming here. Now, you would think in a certain way, with all the anti-Semitism going on, especially in the States, right? In other places, why aren't people lining up to come? Simple question. Why are they not lining up? The answer is they don't want to come. They'll what do you call it? They'll wait it out. Get more protection. Sometimes, a lot of people, when the blacks started taking over in South Africa, some people couldn't leave. First of all, the rand wasn't worth as much anyway. They couldn't take so much money out with them, right? But the ones that got stuck there are people that are, let's say older parents or family, they couldn't leave. Other people fled. Some ended up in Australia, some ended up in America, some ended up places in Europe, some ended up here, whatever. But the writing was on the wall, so why didn't everybody get up? A lot of people left. Okay. What about the people who didn't leave? Because they couldn't. A lot of them couldn't leave. Or some of them refused to leave, and the reason they refused to leave is because they're making a ton of money. And, in South Africa, they have a lot of servants. They got a lot of help. So they go, let's say they go back to the States, not going to be able to live that way. So a person will say it's not worth it to go back because they're living the good life. They're living the easy life. A lot easier. I look at all the carjackings and this and that, and people living behind, fences and barbed wire and this, and feel like they're living on an enclave or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You ask South Africans who live there, they'll say, we're used to it. We're used to what goes on, but they're not leaving. Right? They're not leaving. It's another good example, of that. Now, again, if they have good reasons, why not? Okay. Right? Good reasons, as the Gemara says, I can understand. I definitely can understand. But if you're living a good life, why would you want to come? Thoroughly secular Jews aren't coming here. No question. Very few. You got to be really idealistic to want to come. Right? The only people who are going to come are Orthodox Jews. Right? Because they have a connection to the land. Unless you're a really, really big-time Zionist. If you're really a big-time Zionist, good. If you're not a big-time Zionist, you ain't coming. Right? In general, and that's the way it is. Right? It's possible the child's parent is Amalek, the child is not. No. But we don't know who Amalek is anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right? But that would be not a possibility. Child's also Amalek. Can a child of Amalek repent? Yes. Right? And we see that even, not only can they repent, they can actually convert, because you see that the Gemara says, grandkids, the great-grandkids of Haman himself were learning Torah in Israel. Normally we'd say, how can an Amalekite, how can Amalek convert? Shouldn't let them convert because the source of them is bad. Right? But you see, they can even convert. Not only can they convert, you see that they can be even great as Jews. Right? Right? Now, someone who's born as an Amalekite, they can repent. They have the ability to repent. So they're not stuck. Nobody in Judaism, if they want to convert or whatever, is ever stuck. Right? Maybe in Hinduism, you're born in a certain caste or whatever, you're stuck. Okay. Right? But again, even the Torah says, okay, an Egyptian can't come into the camp, ever, or for 4 generations, or whatever it is, right? You're going to say, so what if an Egyptian wants to convert? Can an Egyptian convert? What are we going to say? The Egyptians today are not the same. Any nation today is not the same. It's Cherib mixed up all the nations. So if you mixed up all the nations, who's a true Amalekite today? You say the part of the Arab, ones that hate Torah, yeah. You could say that. And people in the government here and other things, yeah, you could say that. Can you say that for certainty? I mean, it's a character trait. What if they repent? Yeah. But they're big anti-Semites. Yeah. You take somebody that comes from Amalek. Yeah, but they see the error of their ways. Yeah, they see the error of their ways. They can't repent. Why can't they repent? They're not stuck. They could repent. The question is, can they convert? Better question. Can they convert? That's a different question. Someone asked, parent trying to abort the child before birth, abusing them after they were born, but the child turns out good. Yeah, things can happen. There are cases like this. And it's probably very rare where the parents like seriously abuse the kid, almost try and kill them, whatever, and the kid turns out to be some great, who knows what, right? It certainly happened, right? It can certainly happen, but even if that's the case, can anybody? Let's make clear: anybody can find the path to God if they want, no matter where they come from. There might be certain limitations in certain things, but in general, if they want to find the path, they'll find it. God will help them find it, no matter what they go through. Where they come from, Amalek, they come from others, whatever. Take someone who's like, take Nebuzaradan. Nebuzaradan was the butcher of Babylonia, yeah? Killed tens of thousands of Jews. Tens of thousands of Jews. And guess what? God gave the ability to convert. Anytime I learn this Gemara on Tisha B'Av, always ask the same question. Why give him the right to convert? This guy killed tens of thousands of Jews as the butcher of Babylonia. He was Nebuchadnezzar's right-hand man. Why in the world do you allow him to live? Forget live. Why allow him to convert? You understand you're going to punish him in other ways later, whatever the case is. Right? Right? But why let him convert? And the answer is anyone who wants to come close, God will allow them to. So how do you relate to such a parent? Can we erase them out of our lives? Evil parents, if there's abuse and other things, okay. Honoring them, you certainly don't have to do. Respect up to a point, but is it better having them out of your life? Yes. If it's toxic and dangerous, 100%. You have nothing to do with them. Right? You can't honor them. It's impossible to honor them. Right? That'd be forbidden. Right? Sorry. That you wouldn't have an obligation. Absolutely not. You wouldn't have an obligation. Now the question of respect. Right? You're going to say, but the abuse, they did other things. Okay. Should you have them in your life? Probably not. Probably not. Right? If it's toxic, I would say the same thing. I would absolutely say the same thing. Someone says I have Jewish friends living not so well, but I never say anything because of JIT, whatever. Yeah, they stopped smoking as part of our conversation. Okay, that's good. I never reprimanded them, sometimes avoid them, but sort of family. Okay. Judging them, marrying them so way, approved, but who am I to judge? Anyone who smokes is bad. It's bad to smoke. I'm not saying the person's bad. It's a bad addiction. Right? And that's why all the cigarette companies got fined up the gazoo years ago because they put nicotine in. Nicotine's addictive. Right? Someone who smokes, we're not judging the person. Right? You can hate what a person does, but you don't hate the person per se. Right? A Jew cannot hate another Jew. You can hate a non-Jew. It's not good to hate anybody. But, in general, someone who smokes, you hate them. It's a bad thing to do. Yeah. Sort of unhealthy. Yeah. You get people sick by secondary smoke. Yes, proven. Okay. Right? You can hate what they do. You can't hate the person. Right? Listen, we don't have a right to judge. That's true. God's the ultimate judge. But if a person does things, against God, are they going to pay the price? Yeah, it depends what level they're on, right? If they are, we call Tinok Shanishpa, someone who's been, like taken captive by the non-Jews, doesn't know nothing from nothing, doesn't mean they get a free pass. God is going to judge them, however he's going to judge them, all right? But it doesn't mean they get a free pass. So we see, you see a secular Jew doing, desecrate Shabbos, married to a non-Jew, this and that, you got to feel sorry for them. You got to feel sorry for them. They don't have Torah. They don't have mitzvahs. They're ruining their lives. You can try and draw them close, right, to the best of your ability, so to speak. But we don't have a right to judge anyone. We don't have a right. You don't know what's going on in their lives. And people hate God because of, they've had hardship. Can we judge anyone? Let's ask like this. Someone who's still alive, not too many of them left, right, that have a tattoo from the war, right, and they're not religious anymore. Can we judge them? Can't judge them. No way to judge them. And what's the reason we can't judge them? Very simple. They lost their whole family in front of their face. They went through horrors that they'll never speak about. Or maybe they will, I don't know. Can't judge them. Look what they've been through. They've been through hell and back. Yeah, you can try. Try and draw them close. It's going to be very hard. But someone knows nothing from nothing, yeah, you can try and draw them close. They may not want. They may say, don't be holier than thou. They may say, bug off, whatever. But at the end of the day, someone who does bad behavior doesn't make them bad. Depends what they do, right? Smoking doesn't make someone evil. Yeah. Smoking's a hard thing to stop. Anyone who's ever started smoking, ask them. It's a hard thing to stop. They know it's bad for them. They know it's going to cut off years of their life. They can't stop. It's an addiction, a body craze. Very hard. Yeah, they don't hate the person. You can hate what they do, right? But, you can't hate them. It's like anybody else. You want to say things we don't approve of. Yeah, let's say, you got secular Jews that, flaunt the fact they eat pork. Yeah, they eat bacon. They eat other things. They flaunt, yeah. Obviously, we're not going to like that because it's going against what God does. But what's the reason we don't approve? Is it because God says it's forbidden? Because we just don't like it. If it's something that's forbidden, that's a different issue. So you say there's a mitzvah, shomer nafsho seichem. We have a mitzvah to guard ourselves, right? Guard our bodies, let's say better. Big mitzvah to do that. I have to guard someone else's body. Because my own body I have to guard. So that we shouldn't do things that are not good for the body. So what about, in this case? Yeah. Would it be forbidden for a person to smoke today? Yes. 100%. To start, 100%. That is no question. It's not a question we approve or don't approve. It's forbidden according to Torah because it's going to shorten your life. Right? Now, if you want to tell me it's something that's nothing to do with Torah, and it's approval or not approval, okay, it's judgment call. Right? But if it's within Torah, something forbidden, it's not about I don't approve. The Torah doesn't approve. Yeah, that's the point. Right? I always tell secular people, it doesn't matter what I say. God doesn't give one iota what I think. Am I allowed to keep things or not keep things? Is this forbidden according to God or not? Says the God says don't desecrate the body. Does that apply? It applies to a Jew. Very good. Doesn't apply to a non-Jew. Now, if you have an opportunity to try and stop somebody from desecrating that body, yeah. So then you have an obligation to do whatever you can to stop it. Good. And if not, then it's out of your hands. You do what you can do. Doesn't apply to a non-Jew. You're going to say, okay, it applies to a Jew. Very good, but you couldn't do anything about it, so it's not your fault. Totally not your fault. Person, if they're Jewish, should be in contact with, with parents to whatever certain extent. You want to make sure if you have siblings, they don't kill them. At the very least, that's what you should do. And you do everything in your power to make sure they don't kill them. Even if it means you got to spend money out of your own pocket. Even if it's a lot of money, you find the money, borrow it. I don't know. You do something to make sure they don't desecrate the body. That's your obligation as a Jew. As a non-Jew, doesn't apply, right? But again, there are good organizations out there that, that help with that also. But yeah, it's end of life issues are always hard. They're always hard. But it's very clear to me that been made very clear to me. You do whatever you can to make sure the body doesn't get desecrated. You do what you can do when you have an obligation. If you don't have an obligation, it's not your fault. If you know someone that's Jewish that is about to be cremated, can you interfere? You can try. Do you have an obligation? I think that's a good question. If no one else can do it or say anything, then you should do it. Then you should. Then they should. I was just trying to take these courses. They can convert and they didn't have the opportunity to go to yeshiva or whatever. Okay, so what? They don't want the opportunity. They want to do what they want to do. I got plenty of people that, yeah, they should go learn. I know someone, very bad situation right now. And I would say that, yeah, and the mother's saying this person could be a rabbi and go to yeshiva. Very good. Okay. Is he going to? I doubt it. Probably not going to happen. Right? But everyone's got free choice. Everyone has free choice. The question is how they use it. Right? The too old, 38 years old. Why even if he's 38 years old, even if he's 50. There are people who've been to yeshiva at older ages. Came to Torah later. Yeah, obviously better do it when you're younger, but if you come to it later, it's also good. Get an opportunity to save people's lives. 100%. Yeah. Someone here says, I think it's a great investment to pay to learn how to be a civilized Jew. Right. I would say, however, secular Jews would say that. However, I'm pretty convinced. I think once someone has a bar mitzvah, that's it. Or a bat mitzvah, that's it. Jewish education out the window. No adult education is very rare. Right? Definitely seen it being very rare that people have some sort of Jewish education after bar mitzvah. Some do, but most people don't. So yeah, the fact that you want to be a more, knowledgeable Jew in this, that's huge. I always say, how have I secular Jews who want that? They don't want that. Not interested. Just want more money, more power, more this, more that. Just what the desires tell them. That's it. That's it. So listen, I knew someone 68 came to Torah. 68 years old. That's huge. Yeah. You're not gonna say, oh, what a waste of time, these 68 years. Okay, they also said that, but they used every step in their power to move forward. No matter what age. Come to it whatever age. I knew someone became Shomer Shabbos at the age of 90. Started keeping Shabbos at the age of 90. You gotta say, what can I call him at the age of 90? Who knows? It could be dead tomorrow. Dead in a week, dead in a month, another 5 years. Who knows what? But you know what? They're gonna get so much merit. Because after 90 years, they decide they're gonna come into Torah mitzvah. It's huge. No matter what age. It's obviously better when you're younger, but yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked, I determine when someone is ready for conversion. You gotta see where they're holding, what they're doing. You have to see what level of commitment they're gonna have, and that has to be made clear to them what they're in for. And if they say Alpha PK, and this is, even so, this is what I want, and the Jewish people have been through this, that, and the other thing, okay, so someone is really committed, they don't really know much, and they're ready to learn, so why shouldn't they start? Each person's gonna be different, right? But the bottom line is they have to say God created the world. This is what I'm supposed to do, even though I was born in a non-Jew. This is what I should be doing. I want to be close, I want to be closer. I want to go through this whole thing. But they have to understand. They have to understand what they're in for. And if they say, even, I understand that, it's going to take me 3-4 years to move to a community and this and that, so why shouldn't they be out? Right? But, it can't be wishy-washy. They have to be, they have to say, I want to be the real deal. I want to do whatever it takes. Right? They have to know what they're in for, bottom line. And if they understand that, whatever, so then I would say then they're ready if they thought about it. They don't care what family says, they don't care what friends say. They understand it's a big commitment. It's a big commitment. Yeah, but it's going to depend on each person. Some people say they are committed, but they're not. It depends. Depends who it is. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. This every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Israel time. We for the next few weeks till we change the clocks. Anyone has any questions? Find me on Facebook at Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, OrthodoxConversionJudaism.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics for fathers. Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email? RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCHAIM@gmail.com, which have a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, depending.